many other essential services for millions of people around the world. Digital transformation is not just about new technologies or new hardware. Fundamentally, it must be about improving lives, empowering people, and especially the poorest and the most vulnerable. It is about strengthening the resilience of our societies and economies. And in a nutshell, digital transformation should be about sustainable development. To put it differently, if we do not close the digital divide, we will not achieve the sustainable development goals. And this is why digitalization poses a global challenge, and it requires a concerted global response. There are many questions related to this transformation. How can we provide fair and secure access to digital data so that the data is not monopolized by a few and leaving the vast majority digitally disenfranchised? How can we encourage a freer flow of data across the world to promote innovation and inclusive sustainable development? Can we find ways to address the pandemic of misinformation, which sometimes, arguably, has been worse than the pandemic itself? There are no easy, ready answers. But we clearly do need to have a conversation about a global framework to maximize these opportunities and to deal with the challenges posed by the digital revolution. The goal is both simple and singular. How can we enhance multilateral cooperation to leverage digital technologies for sustainable development? There are many paths that we can take. The Secretary General's proposal for a global digital compact, or perhaps a new UN Convention on Digital Transformation for Sustainable Development, or a framework of norms and principles. I leave these options on the table to be part of a conversation that we all need to have at a global level. As a tiny country, as a vital node in the international digital network, Singapore has always advocated a global architecture that is open, inclusive, interoperable, and multi-stakeholder. Such a global digital architecture must be shaped by a few guiding principles. One, the voices of small states must be heard, and our concerns taken into account. Two, digital transformation needs to be people-focused, and it must improve people's daily lives. Three, we need to involve all relevant stakeholders, the government, the private sector, civil society, because it is no longer possible in today's digital world to neatly draw lines between government, industry, and citizens. Fourth, we need to think digital, which means thinking in an integrated, multidisciplinary, multi-sectoral way. The complex problems of today and tomorrow require innovative solutions. And five, we need concrete action through identifying a common set of digital development goals and a framework for multilateral cooperation. At the national level, Singapore is already building partnerships with many countries. We have concluded digital economy agreements with several of our partners. We co-lead the WTO Joint Statement Initiative on e-commerce with Japan and Australia. And this now includes more than 80 member economies and comprise 90% of global trade. These can be building blocks in a larger global architecture. At the broader level, we need determined action to close the digital divide, not only within nations, but also between nations. There is already much work being done, but we need to give these efforts a stronger push through education, training, and improving the digital skills and literacy of our people across the board, investing in infrastructure for universal and affordable internet connectivity, and expanding access to data and digital public goods, including open source software and digital utilities. We can do a lot more to improve international data governance, to promote interoperability, trust, security, when we transact in the digital environment. I've only touched on some of these issues that I believe we need to look at. There are other important issues outlined in the Secretary General's roadmap for digital cooperation, and the common agenda that he has set out lays out a way forward on a global digital technology track. The next step is to take action on these proposals, and Singapore will support the efforts by the United Nations to advance our global conversation, so that together we can make tangible progress on digital transformation for sustainable development. Mr. President, Excellencies, as we seek to build a more inclusive, sustainable future, we need to give each other a hand. And this is especially so for small and developing countries. In 1992, Singapore established the Forum of Small States, FOSS, F-O-S-S. It's an informal platform for small states to discuss issues of mutual concern. We started off with a group of 16. It has now grown to 108 members at the United Nations. And we will celebrate our 30th anniversary next year. To mark this milestone, Singapore will launch a new Force for Good program. It will commence in 2022. It will focus on priority areas such as the digital transformation and COVID-19 recovery, customized to the unique challenges faced by small countries. Because we believe it is only by working in partnership, by helping each other, that we can reach a more resilient, a more inclusive, and a more sustainable tomorrow. It's always darkest before dawn, but dawn will arrive. There is hope, and there's much work ahead for all of us. Thank you.
I thank the Minister for Foreign Affairs of Singapore for his statement. We have heard the last speaker in the general debate for this meeting. We will continue the general debate on Monday, 27th of September at 9 a.m. in this hall. The exercise of the right of reply has been requested. May I remind members that statements in the exercise of the right of reply are limited to 10 minutes for the first intervention and to 5 minutes for the second intervention, and should be made by delegations from their seats. I call on the representative of Indonesia.
Madam President, I'm taking the floor to exercise Indonesia's rights of reply to the statement made by Vanuatu. I'm appalled that Vanuatu keeps using this august forum to infringe the sovereignty and territorial integrity of other member states, and continues its ill intention and politically motivated aggression against Indonesia. We strongly reject false, baseless allegation and misrepresentation that continues to be nurtured by Vanuatu. They create false and empty hopes and fuel conflicts, sadly, at the expense of innocent lives. Vanuatu tries to impress the world with its so-called concern for human rights issues. In reality, their version of human rights is twisted and fails to mention inhumane and heinous acts of terror committed by armed separatist criminal groups. Vanuatu deliberately closed its eyes when these armed separatist criminal groups murdered nurses, healthcare workers, teachers, construction workers, and law enforcement apparatus. These are the peoples who actually dedicate their lives for the Papuans. When innocent construction workers were brutally murdered, why did Vanuatu choose to be silent? When teachers were mercilessly slain and killed, why did Vanuatu choose to be silent? When public facilities built for the people of Papua were destroyed, why did Vanuatu, once again, choose to remain silent? In fact, Vanuatu is advocating separatism under the guise of artificial human rights.